Hello, everybody. We're back with the Screen Scene, episode 1. Let me see what I wrote down here. The Tikking-Tokking clock. I am your host, Cole Keller, and I am joined with my co-host, Nate Carlberg.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah. So let's start with a little bit of a check-in. I think we should always start our episodes with a little bit of a check-in so folks understand kind of where we're living, what we're going through. It is cold.
It's cold. It's snowing right now. I'm not a fan.
I can deal with cold temperature. Like I like to say, I can do cold because you can always add layers. And in the heat, you can only strip down so much before you get sent to prison.
Right. I agree with that. And I think that we talked about this off camera too, but it's just like, I feel like the grass is always greener, right? Like in summer, you want it to be colder. In winter, you want it to be warmer. Like as Midwesterners, I think that we're very spoiled when it comes to the changing seasons. You know what they say about Chicago. If you don't like the weather, wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't understand how folks can live in like the American Southwest and just be like totally fine with, 120 degrees. Okay, yeah, it's just another summer day. And then I can't understand the folks that live in like North Dakota. Like my father lived in Moorhead, Minnesota, right by Fargo. And it's so cold in the wintertime.
Right.
You are dealing with an onslaught of snow. It's just...
But you get used to it. I mean, it's just like here, we're used to negative temperatures. We're used to inches and inches of snow. Fargo, great movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's rough. Fortunate to say at least, it's been a pretty smooth week for me so far, regardless. Past the weather, Monday and Tuesday is a lost cause. Forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, most of my New Year's resolutions are still alive, so that's...
Most.
Most.
I'll take most.
Listen, we're 3 weeks into January? I think I'm ahead of the pack there.
There you go. Yeah, I'm pretty good on my New Year's resolutions too. I'm very thankful to say. Well, it's way better than most years, I would say.
Well, it's nice because one of my resolutions is to read before bed instead of scrolling on my phone.
That's great.
And they banned TikTok for 10 hours, so that night I was kind of forced to read. I'm like, all right, awesome.
Yeah.
This is helping me a lot, and then it didn't.
What are you reading, if I could ask?
So I'm rereading a book. It's called Into Thin Air. It's a true tale, or based on a true tale about an expedition up Everest.
Oh, wow.
I'm a big fan of the book. It was recommended to me by a YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Kurzgesagt.
Yes.
Oh, I love their videos.
I'll take a book recommendation from them any day. So I read it, loved it, and now I'm rereading it to kind of get myself back into reading every night before bed because I'm a reader. I like to read. I just had to get on a more consistent schedule. And I think that putting the phone down, picking up a book is a great way to end your night. So.
Yeah. I'm very guilty of... I'm stuck on fiction. Like I struggle to read nonfiction books because I often get tangled up on a lot of like the names, the dates. I lose track of events, the chronology of things, timelines. Versus fiction, I just get a much simpler start to finish.
Sure.
You watch a story unfold, an adventure, you learn some themes, you get to admire the writing. And right now I'm currently reading something called Revenant X.
Okay.
It is a sequel to a book called Paradise 1. And it's like a space sci-fi horror survival book, and it's lovely.
What would you compare it to in pop culture that's out right now?
Oh,
just so I can get an idea of the tone,
Oh man, it isn't exactly the most unique of stories because sci-fi survival sort of stuff, it typically goes the same way. You're stranded on a spaceship and you're kind of like, how do I survive this insurmountable situation? However, of the things I've seen, I haven't found anything similar to it.
Interesting.
It's the scale and progression of the story as it unfolds is it's remarkable.
That sounds good. I will say, and before we kind of roll into the news and everything, I think that if the story is written well enough and in a well enough format, I think nonfiction can really kind of, because I read a book about Einstein, because I'm that kind of guy.
Oh, I love it.
And just kind of how they frame his life and his story and the characters that were, part of his story. I thought it was really well done. If I remember the name of it, I will bring it up on this podcast again.
Just let me know. I've been meaning to get into nonfiction a little bit more.
And I need to get into fiction more because you're right. Reading just a bunch of dates and people, it does get a little exhausting.
Well, look at that. We can now share our book ideas and get ourselves motivated to read a little more. That's a good start to the year.
I'll cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Speaking of cheers, what are we drinking today, Cole?
Today we're sipping on some good old Maker's Mark. I actually had quite a bit of Maker's Mark, and I'm a big fan of some bourbon whiskey. Now, we are not being promoted by Maker's Mark, although I'd like us to be. If you are a rep of Maker's Mark and you somehow tune in, hit me up, okay?
At least don't sue us.
At least don't sue us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
cheers. So, we've got some news.
Mm-hmm.
Cole, what did you find right before the podcast kind of
Well,
revved up?
I think everyone found this out. TikTok was banned on the 19th for approximately
10 hours.
about 10 hours. It wasn't exactly a long ban. We're actually back up and running like normal, but nonetheless, there was a ban, and it finally went through. It was it's kind of astounding. I never thought we'd actually reach the point where we'd actually see this ban in play, because it kept getting pushed along, kind of like kicking the can down the road until finally we got to the can.
It was also just very weird how different people were championing the ban. Obviously, it started with former and now current President Trump, and then Biden and his administration was in favor of the ban, and then eventually, weirdly enough, they were the one to enact it, and then Trump was the one to bring it back, or I don't know. TikTok reds Trump. What actually happened, we may never know. But it was a very strange timeline of events.
Yeah, I can't even consider, if we're keeping it in the realm of politics, I can't even imagine folks that are interested in the ban, folks with or against the ban. Doesn't seem to be like a partisan issue.
Right.
I've seen folks from the left crying for its ban. I've seen folks from the left wanting the ban revoked. I've seen folks from the same political party 1 second saying we should ban it and then praising that it's back. It's like, which one is the right answer?
Right. And, it's all just a very weird situation. And what did we find out today? That Trump is not going to extend the keeping of TikTok. So basically what happened is TikTok was banned on the 19th, like we said, and then it was said that there would be a 90-day, kind of grace period for TikTok to kind of figure things out. And it was just said that that 90 days will be the end of TikTok. So TikTok is set to go down, mid-April?
Mid-April. So I don't know. The way that we could keep TikTok in the States is there has to be some sort of agreement, joint ownership.
Right.
There have been talks about 50%, like 50-50 split, which honestly could work. I mean, it'd be a nice way to collaborate.
It could. And the characters that are coming out saying they're interested in buying it, I mean, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Beast, I mean, just like a vast variety of interesting characters who can afford it. But, it's very interesting seeing who's coming out and saying that they would save it.
I'm not sure if either of those names inspire confidence, especially Elon Musk adding to the mix. I mean, that guy recently did this on national television. I'm like, not to get terribly political. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend and step on any toes, but I can't.
But Kevin O'Leary is Mr. Wonderful, you have to remember.
Oh,
Funny story, I do not think he's made much money from Shark Tank. I would have to look that up, but I know that some of them have gotten really screwed in terms of the deals. Like Barbara Corcoran has gotten screwed on a lot of Shark Tank deals.
Oh my God. I haven't kept up too much on the Shark Tank dealings and looked up and following, how have these guys panned out their businesses after taking deals with some of these guys?
Mark Cuban supposedly very well. I read an article a while back about who's made the most from Shark Tank, and he was way at the top, and then Barbara Corcoran was way at the bottom. Wow. I do not know how much that has changed. Anyway, I digress from the Shark Tank tangent.
Hey, it's good to get these tangents. I wanted to take it back to an interesting thing pertaining to the TikTok ban, at least according to Newsweek. I read an interesting article the other day, and it was brought to my attention that President Donald Trump, recently sworn in, may not save TikTok after all. So even following the 90-day period. According to Newsweek, in the lead up to Trump's return to the Oval Office, he repeatedly said that he would save TikTok from the ban, which was originally conceived of during his first administration. The change in tone on Monday represents a harsher approach to the social media site, which had previously praised Trump for starting the process of restoring service. Excuse me for a moment while I find it here, but but Trump's latest comments appear to be less enthusiastic about preventing the ban, with his newly sworn in president describing the site as worthless. When asked by reporters about the ban, Trump said, "I may or may not do the deal. Trump is worthless if I don't approve it. I learned that from the people that own it. If I don't do the deal, it's worth nothing. If I do the deal, it's worth $1 trillion. Excuse me." So whether or not he actually accepts it, if they come to an agreement in the 90-day span, it's basically up to him. He's kind of the judge, jury, and executioner.
Right, and which is interesting that he's taking the worthless approach now, because he talked so highly of it in the sense that it connected him with a certain age demographic that may or may not have helped him win the election. So it's interesting that he's taking this tone because, a few days ago, he was very much praising it, talking about how, it helped him win the election. Like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but it is just interesting the shift in tone and how quickly that tone shifted with him.
Yeah, I'm just nervous about the potential ramifications for content creators that do make a living off of this, because I actually have some friends of mine that, are very fortunate enough to have gained some traction and success on TikTok and social media platforms that do derive some income from this.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious about solutions for the small businesses and, maybe even larger businesses that drive a little bit of revenue and customer base through TikTok.
Right. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
No. I wanted to kind of touch base on kind of our guidelines here, because we're kind of getting used to the whole the podcast situation. But TikTok is something unique. It basically filled a void that Vine helped to create. Goodness, when did Vine come out now?
Well, when did Vine
Was it 2014, 2015?
It was around there.
Yeah, it was in the 2010s. Yeah. But it created a demand for a new form of content, short form content that just exploded. Everybody was tuning in for like a quick laugh, a quick piece of information, something cool that you could see in a short, bite-sized, condensed format that fits the pace of our fast-paced world now. And TikTok has just been an instrumental tool for folks and businesses to gain organic growth, like organic followers. It's unprecedented.
I would say that TikTok even had a bigger impact than Vine, because I remember obviously Vine was, like you said, a quick laugh, a quick video. I remember watching a lot of Vines back then, but I think TikTok really started the trend of short form content, because now you have YouTube Shorts, Facebook and Instagram Reels. I mean, everybody has their own rip-off version of TikTok. And I guess what I want to kind of explore is, what made TikTok different? Because I know a lot of people were drawn to TikTok, and when it went down, I read and saw a lot of people saying that Reels was nothing like TikTok, or it didn't live up to that standard. So, I mean, what kind of, in your opinion, what made TikTok different, and what makes this so impactful?
Now, I have to give you a full disclaimer. Despite actually posting on TikTok myself, I don't actually browse the site all that much.
Okay.
But I think it has to do more with its algorithms.
I agree.
It has to do more with its support for collaboration, like duets as it began. It used to be called Musical.ly, and then it changed entirely in its formatting. But really, I would probably give a lot of its success toward its algorithms.
I would say that the sensitivity of the algorithm is really what made it work, because I would get sent. So an example of this is a friend sent me a TikTok regarding the Domingo sketch on Saturday Night Live. And I watched it once, and then suddenly my entire feed was Domingo TikToks. And so I think that, having that sensitivity allows people to find and explore lots of different content, and that's what really built out people's For You pages. And I think if you watched enough TikToks, your For You page really became authentic to what you were wanting to see and what you enjoyed, and then a hint of new content that was related to what you already like. So I agree. I think TikTok's algorithm really did it well, and is still doing it well in the time being. But yeah, I guess another question would be, do you think that Reels and YouTube Shorts and all these other rip-off TikTok platforms can keep short-form content king, or are we headed in a completely different direction marketing-wise?
I think...
Which I know is a very loaded question, but...
Yeah, I don't think anything else has reached the level of TikTok. TikTok is all about it. Like, you can go long form content, but the way it's displayed is very quick and easy for folks to see.
Right.
Here's the content. When I'm going on YouTube, usually the shorts are kind of taking the back seat. What takes up the majority of somebody's page is their long form content. You see their long videos. You see these things that are in horizontal format, which is better suited to television, better suited to bigger monitors, your computer screen, for example. It's not exactly suited for the phone here, which is everybody's got one.
Yeah.
Not everybody is hopping on a desktop or laptop. Some folks don't even use those like day to day, but they do use their phones. That's just a huge demographic. Nothing else has quite reached that level of specificity. I think if they were to create, if YouTube were to create a platform exclusively for short form content, it would have a good shot. Facebook, maybe, Meta, sure. Instagram has actually, ironically, gotten some pretty close performance, I would say.
Okay.
Like Instagram Reels, I'm always hearing about that. Facebook Reels, maybe among the older generation. I mean, let's be real here. Instagram is more with like Gen Z, millennial, and then like beyond. I mean, even like the youth, they're mostly sticking like with TikTok. They're not really sticking around Instagram so much. I mean, that's more of like our generation, I would say.
Yeah, no, and to kind of go back to what you said about long form content, there was actually an attempt to revive long form content as the king medium, because I remember posting on YouTube for some work stuff, And I had seen some things that were saying that YouTube was encouraging long form content to be uploaded.
Yeah.
That they were kind of pushing it with their algorithm to get people to watch more long form content. And I think it was the same on Instagram and maybe a couple other platforms, that they wanted those, 2 and 3 minute videos instead of 15 to 30 seconds. Because, again, you don't want to put all your eggs in a short form basket, and then that kind of sinks as a trend. And you have to figure out what the next big thing is. How do you go viral? How do you get, like you said, that organic content, that reach? How do you reach people efficiently? Yeah,
YouTube is just, nothing else has come close for the longer form content. Like I'll watch documentaries on there, like YouTube made documentaries. I'll watch video essays. I'll watch long form informative videos like Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
Like you had mentioned earlier. I do love watching their videos. They're very informative, great ways. It's a great platform to watch that sort of content, but you don't get that through TikTok. Even Facebook is not really a great medium for it. It's more of like keeping up with people and organizations. Instagram doesn't have the formatting support.
Right.
Just is not, it's not made for like desktop viewership. It's very concretely like mobile.
Well, I think that long form and short form content can definitely help each other, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen a short form content clip of a longer video that I've then gone and watched.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they help each other, but I think it's going to be hard when TikTok, the king of short form content, kind of goes away.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of trying to find the next platform or a platform to watch these things on consistently.
Yeah, and its death may still be impending. Like, regardless of whether or not a deal happens, you got to pass through 2 checks. One of them is Trump, who may or may not even go through with a deal after the 90 days, and then also Congress.
Right.
This is subject to a lot of legal hell. As it stands, a lot of congressional members have been threatened through people as a result of TikTok's algorithms, which is also a huge reason why people are trying to ban it.
Yeah.
To look at my notes here, according to Washington Post, one Senate aide said their office has received roughly a dozen violent threats since TikTok began urging users to contact members of the chamber, while a House aide said their office has received multiple calls from people suggesting they will commit self-harm if Congress passes legislation targeting the app. Both spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the nature of the outreach. So,
a dozen seems low.
Yeah, like it does seem low, but that's only one. That's only like a handful of reports.
Well, like if you ask me how many Congress people have been threatened via TikTok, I would say a number that's a lot higher than a dozen.
Probably more than a dozen.
Right.
This is just one Senate aide, mind you. It's not like the summa cum laude. What's the term? Like the whole of it. It's not everybody who's coming for this.
Right. I'm sorry. That was just a dark observation that I made.
Oh no. Like, listen to me. I'm not going to cry crocodile tears over Congress here. I mean, I'm not a big fan of career politicians. I don't mean to get terribly political about this, but like, this is why people are pushing for this to be banned in the States.
And if it is banned, like what are we looking at? What does the future look like?
Honestly speaking, I'm not terribly worried, because there will be a company to rise up to seize that gap. And we are going to get one probably within less than a month of it showing up. And I'll tell you right now, Red Note is not the solution, although it is hilarious that it is gaining traction. I don't know if you know this, but the Chinese government may or may not, according to somebody that I know who's working with some folks in a think tank, believe it or not, over in DC, but Red Note may or may not be banned by the Chinese government because United States citizens are talking with Chinese citizens, and that cross-pollination is not something that they want.
Well, and that's part of why TikTok was banned in China.
Yeah.
Which is something that I know you learned very recently and you were surprised by.
Yeah, I didn't know that TikTok was actually banned in China until I kind of connected the dots between why I'm hearing that Red Note might be banned over in China as well.
It's just interesting, and I think we have the list of countries here that TikTok is also banned in.
Yeah. I believe we had...
So the report that you had brought up was that many other countries were cut off from TikTok because of the U.S. being the service provider for TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
So Canada, Germany, Australia, Greece, and Poland, among other countries affected. There were also reports from Morocco, the UK, and Ireland of outages, which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
It is.
Our legislature and our decisions not only affect us, but it influences the other countries all across the world because they rely on our service providers. Now, obviously, it's not like a super critical, unsolvable situation. They'll just simply change service providers. But nonetheless, as it stands at the moment, infrastructure would dictate that those other countries would also lose access to this short form magnet.
Well, and you want to talk about other ramifications. Other apps owned by ByteDance would be banned come the 90 days. So the big one I think that people talked about was CapCut, which is huge for marketers.
CapCut,
If you don't know, CapCut is an editing app that's all on your phone, so you don't have to use Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve, or a more complex editing system. So it's great for people who work in social media, great for people who are on site to just quickly edit and export clips.
Yeah, I mean, take it from me. I'm a professional editor. Like, I sit in Adobe Premiere pretty much most hours of my workday. And I'll tell you what, CapCut is incredible. It kicks ass. Like, I'd be remiss not to mention it, but it's like, it's really powerful for free editing software.
Right, it is. And again, the convenience of having it straight on your phone. So if you're on site, if you're like I know a lot of people who use it are sports content creators. So if you're working for a sports team and you're recording, player walk-ins or whatever, you quickly edit those clips, export them, and upload them to your team's social media. So that would be a big hit. Marvel Snap was also one that's going to be banned, which I don't understand the connection. And then an app called Lemon8. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not sure if you are.
No, I don't know of Lemon8, but it is still an app run by them and would still lose service.
It's just very interesting, kind of all the threads that we're kind of pulling on by banning TikTok.
And it's not really reported either. Like, TikTok is obviously the biggest one, but CapCut, losing access to that, I can imagine a ton of content creators, even some small businesses, maybe even bigger businesses if they haven't accounted for it, are going to lose access to a pivotal media content editing software.
Right.
Like, losing access to that would obliterate your workflow.
Well, and not just to mention free. Right. Yeah. And so these businesses who aren't spending money on Adobe Creative Cloud and the Creative Suite, are going to have to start spending money there if CapCut gets banned, or finding another free editing app. I'm not sure if there are any out there worth anybody's time. But yeah, that would be huge. I mean, I think that I really don't know. I don't think I'm as confident as you that everything's going to be okay if TikTok goes away. And that's not because I'm a big fan of the platform. I'm not. I don't scroll on it as much as people know. If you look through my TikTok, you'll see a lot of unread messages because people assume I'm on there all the time because of my job. But I'm not. And, I'm familiar with it. I know of it. I know about the algorithm. But I just think that so many people have catered their content plans and their marketing plans and hired social media managers and videographers and content creators for short form content.
Yeah, I don't know if we would if we would fill that vacuum within a month. I know that there would be a solution within a month, but whether users would flock to it is a different answer. Different question.
Well, I think the other thing is that the majority of the crowd flocked to TikTok.
Yeah.
But now that crowd might lose TikTok, I feel like instead of all of them going, let's say, to Instagram Reels, it's going to be split between Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, whatever other apps pop up. And I think that it's going to be harder to nail, a larger demographic of people with one app or service.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Instagram, Facebook, I hate to say it, but they are very age group centric. Like, I feel like the folks that use Facebook tend to be older than you and I. The folks that use Instagram are around our age, and the folks that use TikTok can also tend to be younger. Of course, there is a spread.
Of course.
There's always a spread. Instagram is more hip and hot, I'd say, with the younger generation, although I don't know if it has that same impact that TikTok does with, like, say, the even younger, like Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
And I think what's coming up next, Gen Beta.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think this is going to have to be a wait and see situation. It'll be interesting for sure from a marketing perspective, from an everyman perspective.
Yeah.
Just, how kind of people adapt because, there wasn't this much controversy when Vine went away. And, I think that it didn't make as big of an impact. So people were okay going back to the other social media platforms that were out there. But a lot of people are upset about this TikTok thing, and rightfully so, because like you said, this is some people's livelihoods.
It is their livelihoods. Now, so it's just, it's messed up. I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. If you are running a marketing campaign over on TikTok, I would start thinking about contingencies. Whether or not TikTok sticks around after the 90 days remains to be seen, whether it gets stuck in congressional hell, whether Trump decides ultimately it's not worth saving, or if nobody ends up buying it. Although, frankly, if the first two conditions are cleared, someone is going to buy it.
You would think, man, but I mean,
think so.
Mr. Beast and Kevin O'Leary and they might change their mind. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I'm not too optimistic if either of those two decide to pick it up.
A lot can happen in 90 days, as we've seen from, I would say, the past 5 years.
Yeah. Why don't we switch gears a little bit and
All
talk
right.
about some other media news that is pertinent toward the tail end of last year that we wanted to talk about, but we didn't actually get too much time to do so.
Okay.
We kind of thought about talking about it. We want to talk about it, but it's January 2025 here, but we still want to touch upon some things from the end of last year.
Yeah. I think if we're talking about kind of, the upcoming Oscars, we can kind of lump in, award season as a whole. So I don't know. Are you familiar with the controversy surrounding some of the Oscar nominees this year?
Only a little bit. I only heard about The Brutalist and a little bit of its use with AI to mimic an accent.
Yeah. So what happened there is people found out that Adrian Brody, who is the leading actor in The Brutalist, supposedly great movie on my watch list. I need to see it before the Oscars. Supposedly that his accent is supplemented with AI, which has a lot of people mad because I believe he is one of the front runners for Best Actor. So that's something that a lot of people have an issue with because I think that the can of worms and AI and movie making has officially been opened. I think that one of the big things was Marvel used AI to create their opening for Secret Invasion. And a lot of people were upset with that because it was very clearly AI. It had no artistic intention. It was programmed. And I think that the vast majority of Hollywood still believes in creativity and doing things manually. And so the idea that Adrian Brody could win an Oscar with the help of AI, I think opens a massive can of worms.
I agree.
There's also a big issue that, and these are anonymous reports, but apparently members of the Academy are not finishing The Brutalist. Some background there. It is a 3 hour and 34-minute movie. It has an intermission, but some people are not finishing it. And there was an anonymous report from somebody saying that this happens quite often. And then in that case, Academy members just vote for whatever their friends worked on. So the integrity of the Oscars might be compromised. I think that that's a bigger story than people are talking about. But I don't know. What do you think of this?
I personally of the mind of if you are going to use AI to mimic an accent, that should not be... I have a lot of fault with it. I agree. I like the concept of AI as a tool, but if you're going to crutch on it to mimic an accent instead of putting forth the time and effort to truly mastering it, I cannot give you as much respect as I would give to somebody else who has put forth the time and effort toward truly encapsulating that character.
Right.
If it's overcoming an impossibility, a physical impossibility with you as an actor, maybe we can work on with that. But again,
and the reports I've read, just to be clear, are not super clear on the extent to what AI was used. I heard it was to emphasize the accent, things like that. So it was not just Adrian Brody talking and then AI took care of the full accent. But again, I have an issue with it. I think a lot of other people have an issue with it. The question is, does the Academy have an issue with it?
I am pessimistic. I'm going to just come out right and say it. Historically, Hollywood has always been about cutting corners. It has always been about that. We didn't actually start seeing proper protections for the actors until, oh goodness, was it about the 60s? I don't exactly have the exact date in mind, but it was a long time.
Yep.
Actors would get hurt. They would die on set.
Right.
It was terrifying. Buster Keaton risked life and limb for his old films in black and white, and
one of the greatest to ever do it.
Oh my God, I have so much admiration and respect for him. He died penniless, essentially. He did not make much money off of what he did. Incredible actor, but we're not here to talk about Buster Keaton. We're here to talk about cutting corners, and Hollywood is well known for doing it. Executive producers, if they had their way, would most likely completely generate things with AI. Now, I don't think AI will ever be truly able to create everything. Well, I actually have to stop myself from saying that. I do think AI will reach a point where it will create what you want it to create.
No,
but working with AI will take time.
No, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, is that executive producers were more than happy to cut corners with AI, and that's why we had writer strikes and actor strikes and things like that, because they wanted to save money, And so the thing that really kind of pissed me off with the writer's strike is that there was something that the executive producers wanted to do is they wanted AI to write the original script and then hire writers to rewrite the script or make edits to the script.
Oh my.
And for those who don't understand why that's impactful, per the WGA Writers Guild guidelines, writers are not required to be paid as much for a rewrite as they are for a full, original concept.
Oh,
so
geez.
So that, again, cutting corners wherever you can, it just really, it leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And then, they get mad when you question the integrity of, do they really respect the art? Do they really respect the creativity? And so that's why, these big directors, Spielberg, Nolan, all these have their own production companies. They have vertically integrated their process because they have the privilege to do so. And good for them. I mean,
it's fantastic.
They love the art. They make it holy and purely, my guy, Christopher Nolan, we'll talk about him later, but
Nolan.
A man who values the practical shot, a man who values storytelling, and a man who values the intelligence of his audience. But again, we're not here to talk about Nolan. We're here to talk about, just the Oscars. But you know what? Let's actually kind of segue.
Sure.
Speaking of Christopher Nolan,
yeah,
Oppenheimer did great at the Oscars last year. I feel like it was favored to win most of the categories it did. There's not really a movie like that this year.
No. 2025, coming into the Oscars, there doesn't look to be something that has that level of just Oscar sweep that Oppenheimer did. If there's anything, I'd probably put my money maybe on Wicked, just because of how prevalent and well known it is. Everyone's talked about Wicked in the past. They've seen the musical. My family has been chanting their songs for over 10 years. I've been hearing it top to bottom. I've been sick of the music, but I watched the movie, and I will admit, I understand
your disappointment.
I'm not actually disappointed. I mean, I was fed up with it for the longest time. But now that I've seen the movie, there was a lot of love put into it. I can't get mad at it. I went into the film thinking to myself, I'm going to hate this film. I'm just going to tuck her out and take a nap during the film. And then I started watching it, and I'm like, Ariana Grande actually kicked ass. I don't listen to her music. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not even a big fan of Wicked, but the way it was told and the way it was put together blew my expectations out of the water. And as much as that sounds like I'm fangirling for the movie, which I probably am, I will say that I understand.
So I have several things to say about Wicked. I've been called a Wicked hater. I'm not. I like the movie. I really did. I had not seen the musical, so I was excited to see part one, I guess. So if you don't know, Wicked, despite being 2 hours and 40 minutes, is still only the first half of the musical adaptation.
That's right. I remember going into the film and thinking to myself, oh my God, this is just the first part? Oh my God, I'm not going to survive. So I loved it.
I'm going to look at the camera for this next part. If Gladiator 2 can be 2 hours and 20 minutes, if they can take back Rome in 2 hours and 20 minutes, you can get part one of Wicked done in less than 240. But my other thing is that I don't understand how Wicked won box office achievement at the Golden Globes, because it didn't make the most money this year.
No.
I don't even think it broke top 3. And it's a fake award. It's a fake award. And maybe I'm biased because I don't like the director. I think Zhang Chu does a bad job with most of his movies. If you don't know who Zhang Chu is, he is best known for the crappy Now You See Me sequel, the Justin Bieber documentary, and Crazy Rich Asians. So not the best track record, in my opinion. A lot of people like him. A lot of people liked Wicked. The other controversy with him is that he is writing original songs for part 2, Wicked Part 2, which a lot of people don't seem to be a fan of because, again,
I would not be a fan of that. If I were a diehard fan of Wicked, if I watched that, if I went to go see the musical time and time again, like a true diehard fan, which my cousins are, by the way, love you guys. If you're a big fan of it, you'd probably start having a little bit of apprehension toward it. I mean, is that going to be good?
Right. Listen, I think that all the things that they adapted were good. I thought that Ariana Grande did great. I thought that Cynthia Erivo, like you said, kicked ass.
Oh my God, her voice was phenomenal.
Insanely good. And so I liked a lot of those aspects of Wicked. I thought the story was moving, the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda. The things I didn't think were good were mostly based on direction. The lighting, some of the set design felt not immersive enough, and just the choreography. I'm not a professional choreographer. I'm not a dancer. But from my understanding of choreography, it should be like a line in a script. It should do more than one thing. It needs to tell a story. And in Wicked, it just felt like the moves were acting out the words. And it felt very empty. And those are my big criticisms of Wicked. And overall, I liked the movie. I did. But I think that the hype has made me kind of, like you said, cynical about it and pessimistic about it.
I must be totally honest. Whenever I watch a film, I watch it for the first time as an experience and then the second time as an analytical approach. I really start getting critical on a second viewing instead of just the first viewing. I could probably train myself otherwise, but I like really absorbing the feeling that I get from something on the first viewing.
No, I'm with you. I like just kind of by nature, I do some analytical things.
That's brilliant.
But you know, yeah, the first time is for the experience and you're like, man, that was an awesome movie. And the second time you nitpick everything and you become the annoying film bro that nobody wants to watch a movie with.
Oh, those sorts of folks, you can watch the first viewing with them.
Yes.
The second viewing, you can't. You know, that's like me. I can't I will nitpick a movie to hell and back if I've seen it a bunch of times and I'm like, oh, I just don't like I don't like Leonardo DiCaprio in this role. I think this guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I will nitpick it to top and bottom. Like Solo, if you've seen Solo, that Star Wars film, I will nitpick that to shit and back. I loved it the first view, and loved it is a strong word. I liked it on the first viewing. On the second viewing, I couldn't see it as anything other than just a shadowy mess. You can't make out the details.
Sometimes I feel bad nitpicking a movie like that. 'Cause I'm like, it's like a popsicle stick break. It's not meant to hold that much weight.
No.
You know? So I think that and this could be another discussion we have, but you know, I think art versus entertainment is a big distinction. I read an essay titled that, Art versus Entertainment. And I think it nails it on the head. Like, you don't go see Fast and Furious for good cinema.
No.
But you go see it because like watching 2 hours of Vin Diesel driving cars into space and, you know, explosions and fast cars, like that's fun. You know, 2 hours, like Christopher Nolan said it about Gladiator too. He's like, we go to see the sharks in the Coliseum because we crave it.
Oh yeah.
And that's, you know, I think that you have to take all of that with a grain of salt. And man, God bless Ridley Scott. The guy is in the F it, I can do whatever I want part of my career.
Oh, I love that.
Have you seen the interview where somebody was interviewing him and they're like, what's your response to the historical concerns about the movie and its inaccuracies? He's like, well, actually, they did do water battles in the Coliseum. And they're like, yeah, but they didn't flood it with sharks. He's like, F you, this is my movie. I can do whatever I want. And it's like, good for you, man. Like, you've earned it. You have earned it. It's like, you know what? Spielberg can make a movie about himself. He can call it the Fable. That's great. He's earned it.
It's kind of like Quentin Tarantino inserting his foot fetish in every movie. It's kind of like, I'm not a big fan. I got misgivings with it, but he's earned it.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like, I'm not in love with it.
Right.
But you know what? He makes such amazing films. I frankly don't care. I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not judging anyone if it's their cup of tea. It's a free country. Go live your life. I wouldn't exactly go around announcing this sort of stuff. But I mean, like, once you reach a certain level of acclaim in Hollywood, you kind of you can do whatever you want.
Right. And again, it's that vertical integration we talked about where you have your own production company. You can do it. Like, Universal is going to sign whatever blank check Nolan wants them to at this
Absolutely.
point. And that's why The Odyssey is going to be the best movie of 2026. But
I'm
anyway,
excited for that one.
I am. Some more Oscar controversies.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer is not nominated for his Dune Part 2 score because he sampled tracks from Dune Part 1. Now, I think that this is kind of BS because, again, it's a sequel to the first movie. So you would expect the musical themes to be similar.
Yeah.
But I guess my thing is like, you're going to kick out Hans Zimmer for like taking from his own music and then allow Adrian Brody to potentially win Best Actor.
Yeah. I never quite understood the part of self-plagiarism.
Right.
You are the creator of that art. You created that song. You wrote that script. You wrote that story. You shot that video.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. I just don't understand it.
I think the thing is that they don't want him double dipping, right? Like essentially winning 2 Oscars for the same track. I kind of like I said.
Yeah. Well,
if it wasn't for the Adrian Brody thing, I'd be like, you know what? It's a shame. I love Hans Zimmer, one of the greatest to ever do it, but I get it. But I don't know. It just feels like It feels like the rules are different here.
Yeah, I do understand the stance of like you don't want to double dip and win an award on the same thing. Like,
Right.
absolutely, you should never do that.
Yeah.
But if I feel like it should be rated in the same way that you have flexibility with, say, fair use laws,
Yeah.
where if it's a respectful amount of it, but not an overwhelming amount, you should be able to at least reuse parts of it, especially considering the heavy emphasis of motifs, leitmotifs in the music, where you have this shrill chorus that kicks in with anything relating to the lisan al-gaib, you know? It hits those same notes, it does the same thing, and you should still be able to win an award so long as it's not the literal exact same track.
Right.
You know?
I think there's several schools of thought with it. So on that topic, on the topic of the Oscars, do you have any picks for this year?
I never thought I would say this, but I really liked Wicked.
Okay.
Okay. I went into the whole movie thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to sleep through half of it. Like, this is going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a doozy in terms of length. But I really liked it. Maybe I'm biased because I saw it with my family, who is a huge fan, and I love them to death. And I love spending time with them, but I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I think Wicked would take it would certainly take my vote for best musical.
Okay.
Like, I mean, granted, there's not a whole lot of original composition in it. It's just retakes and iterations of existing songs. So I can't exactly rate it on terms of like original music.
Which is fine. Jukebox musicals are a thing.
Yeah, but
Or I guess this is an adaptation.
I really liked it. No, I would probably just vote with like Wicked for like best musical.
Okay. I respect it. I think, because it's broken down by comedy and musical.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, my pick there has to be A Real Pain. I thought it was a phenomenal movie. I think my third best movie I saw this year. I have to look at my rankings. If you haven't seen it, it's a movie where Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin are two Jewish cousins, and they go on a European tour visiting the concentration camp in childhood home where their grandmother was held and lived. Really emotionally powerful movie. Kieran Culkin, I think, should win the actor for best supporting or whatever he's up for. I have to look at the list again.
Probably the best supporting actor.
Yeah, but anyway, Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut, phenomenal movie.
Wow.
Go see it if you haven't. That, fun fact, is the first movie I saw alone.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that. I've never seen a movie alone. I've just never done it. I think I've just been so lazy. I haven't actually set time to do it because I've always could treat movies like a social event.
Yeah.
I love grabbing the popcorn. I like getting a drink, and I like watching a movie and talking about it with somebody else afterwards. So
I'm with you, man. And so like, here's the thing. I like to see, my little artsy film bro movies, and usually I can drag somebody along with me. But this time it was like nobody wanted to go. It was a limited release, at least from around where we are. And it's like, you know what? It's $5 Tuesday. I've got a gift card. It's gonna be a free ticket. I'll go see. Why not? So I went. I had a great time.
wow.
And so the funny thing is, you don't think about these things when you buy the ticket. But I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the movie, and so it's like there's nobody here to supplement what I missed. So what I did is I set up my phone on the armrest of the chair, recorded the minute of the movie I missed, and then rewatched it when I got home.
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you. I was very impressed with myself for coming up with that on the fly. But I don't think there's any shame in going to the movies alone. I would do it again. I think that you just kind of miss out on, like you said, talking about the movie afterward.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have to worry about planning with anybody else. I was kind of a fan. I thought it was a pretty seamless experience.
Unfortunately, I have to rain on that parade because I need to see more movies. Yeah. I have been slacking on movies, and I need to stay up to date. Admittedly, 2024 was a bit of a dry year for me in terms of movies. I haven't seen as many as I would have liked to. When I used to work in a movie theater back in high school, I used to watch movies all the time because they're free movies. Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah. Half off popcorn, half off drinks. I'm in there all day. But I haven't been keeping up with it. So we got to catch a movie sometime.
We do. Also, my pick for Best Picture, just, before we move on.
Let's hear it.
I'm going with Conclave. I think it's going to win.
Conclave.
I think it's going to win Best Screenplay. I think it's going to win Best Picture. If you have not seen Conclave, first off, I highly, highly recommend it. It's called, the process is called the Conclave, but basically it is the election of a new pope when the papacy becomes vacant after the death of the old pope.
How would you rate that in terms of 10? Do you think this sort of movie would be a contender with Oppenheimer in terms of an Oscar-dominating movie?
See, that's tough because Oppenheimer has Nolan, right?
It does have Nolan.
And Nolan does make a lot. As much as I love him, some of his movies are kind of Oscar baity.
That is true.
But listen, I think Conclave would be way up there just based on its messaging. Lots of themes of election integrity and just overall integrity and morality and what it means to be a leader and what it means to have to do what a leader can do. And Stanley Tucci delivers an awesome performance. Ralph Fiennes, however you pronounce his name, I believe gives a career performance in this movie. John Lithgow is amazing. Highly, highly recommend for anybody who hasn't seen it. That is my pick for Best Picture. Would it beat Oppenheimer? I don't think it would. But I think that this year was a lot of very good movies, but nothing that like we said stands out above the rest. Like I think Dune Part 2 is a contender.
Dune Part 2 was phenomenal. Although I am a sucker for the epics. I love those. I grew up with Star Wars. Yeah. I grew up with Lord of the Rings. I love these dramatic movies and these stories that take themselves very seriously. I love getting enamored with the hero's journey again. You know how it's going to end.
Right.
We all know how it's going to end. It's like Romeo and Juliet. But you're in there for the story and the way that it's done, given so much love, given it so much attention to the colors, the acting, the direction, the choreography, the writing, the direction. I mean, it's a whole package that I can't help but just fall in love with.
Denis Villeneuve doesn't get enough credit for his work.
No, he does
Prisoners, Dune, just a couple of just insanely good films, incredible filmmaker. Dune, if you have not seen it, watch it, please.
Oh my God!
So here's how it was sold. Here's how it was sold to me. Imagine if Luke Skywalker overthrew Darth Vader and Palpatine, and instead of restoring balance to the galaxy, he just became evil and took their place.
I wouldn't even call it evil. Here's what I would equate Dune to. If you wanted to throw a space jihad after being told in a very traumatic fashion and watching your father die,
spoiler alert.
That yeah, apologies, a little bit of a spoiler. If you were told you were to be the Messiah and you were going to bring a bloody conflict to the galaxy across all mankind, and there was nothing you could do to stop it, how would you feel? Dune explores that really brilliantly. Dune
is one of the best. I saw Dune Part 2 in IMAX, and it is one of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had. Right next to Interstellar, right next to Avengers Endgame. If they are putting it back in theaters for Oscar season, do yourself a favor. Go see it. Go see Conclave. Go see all of them. Just enjoy yourself at the movies. It's such a great experience. It's such a great time.
We got to catch Conclave, and I will buy the popcorn.
I would watch Conclave again easily, even though I know what happens at the end. I would easily watch it again.
Well, then I can hear your critical thoughts on it. So as I watch it for the first time, and I can hear your thoughts after we watch it, and I'll just know a lot more about it.
Don't open that can of worms, man.
I will. I will. I like hearing the now, the why and how. I want to know about it.
So kind of shifting gears on movies and TV. The Golden Globes also happened. You were a big fan of Shogun?
Oh, I was a huge fan of Shogun. Full disclaimer, I am a huge weep. I watch a lot of anime, big fan. But Shogun was a huge delight to watch on Hulu.
Insanely good.
I bought a Hulu subscription pretty much just for it. Like it was... Oh, it's such a delight. My
Hulu subscription never lets me down. I forgot the Family Guy was on there, and I've been binge watching Family Guy. Great time. Anyway, Shogun won big at the Golden Globes. Wicked, again, won its fake Cinematic Box Office Achievement Award. So I have Conclave also won big at the Golden Globes.
It did.
I think is a good indicator of how it's going to do at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Only Murders in the Building got stiffed a little bit, which is disappointing. I'm a fan of the show. I think that season 4 wasn't its strongest, but you got Steve Martin Short, probably the most celebrity guest stars a show has ever had in a season.
Man.
I very much enjoyed it. Season 5 coming soon, apparently. I have issues with Jodie Foster winning for True Detective Season 4. Are you familiar with True Detective?
I am not.
So True Detective is an anthology series where it follows 2 detectives each season. Season 4, from what I've heard and read and seen, is by far the weakest season.
Ooh.
Jodie Foster. So here's the thing. Season 1 starts with Harrelson and McConaughey, and might be some of the best TV I've ever seen in my life.
Wow, that is huge praise.
Season 1 of True Detective, while heavily disturbing, again, might be some of the best TV that HBO has ever put out. It's up there with The Sopranos. It's up there with Succession.
That's HBO too.
That's
HBO's got huge titles,
right?
Oh my god.
So True Detective season 4, it's been dropping in quality ever since. And this season, Jodie Foster was one of the main characters. I didn't think she did that good of a job, and I think that she probably suffered from bad writing and a bad story. But I was disappointed to see that she had taken that award home. There were a lot of other very qualified nominees. But yeah, that was really the big issues I had with the Golden Globes. I don't pay as much attention as the Oscars, but
yeah, admittedly, I don't pay as much to the Golden Globes either. But for those that are really in depth with it, going into the Oscars, like you said, it is a really good precursor.
Yeah,
if something's winning a lot of Golden Globes, you could probably expect something similar for the Oscars.
Right. Here's another fun Easter egg. If something wins screenplay, like best screenplay at the Oscars, 9 out of 10 times it will win Best Picture. So if you're looking for any indicators on Oscar night, if it wins screenplay, it's probably going to win Best Picture. That's what I've learned. That's what my film school degree taught me.
That's a pretty incredible correlation.
It works out. It works out a lot of the time.
Well, if you had to put money on it, or you had to do a little bit of a bet, ladies and gentlemen, put money on whatever wins Best Picture on what wins Best Screenplay.
People do bet on the Oscars. I saw that.
Yeah, they're going to do it.
So some betting company had an ad. It's like, do you think The Brutalist is going to win Best Picture? Bet. I'm like, you need to call the hotline if you're betting on who's going to win Best Picture. Like, I get Oscar pools and everything are fun, but it's like, listen, man, if you're throwing money on The Brutalist or Wicked to win, God bless you.
It's not my cup of tea. I'm not much of a betting man, so I can't really do much of that. But
I get how it's fun for like the Super Bowl and things like. But the Oscars.
We all love a good game of fantasy football.
We all well, not this year.
Oh well, yeah, not this year. You know. Speaking of, I do need to get into it. Not to segue us too hard off of the whole media thing, but it is considered media because it is on television.
Well, it is, and fantasy football I think gets a lot of people invested in. You know, I'm usually not going to watch like a Cleveland Browns Cincinnati Bengals game.
Oh God, no.
If I have players playing, you know, and my week relies on it, you know, I had to watch an Atlanta Falcons Vegas Raiders game to determine the outcome of my season. I lost, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my guys dragged me kicking and screaming to 6th place this year. So
oh, no.
Thanks a lot to Travis Etienne, my first round bust. Or second round, but whatever. Anyway,
why don't we move on over to something that's a bit late on the reporting repertoire, but let's talk about it anyway because you and I have a bit to talk about. The Game Awards at the tail end of 2024.
Yeah, on the thing it just says, Cole has a bone to pick with Nathan about Balatro.
I don't have a bone to pick with you on it. In fact, I have nothing but admiration for you putting me down the path of becoming a gambling addict, which we don't spend any sort of money playing Balatro. But Balatro, in case you don't know, is a game using poker cards. It is a deck building roguelike. If you aren't familiar, it is a game that doesn't save progress. It saves progress, but it's not like a sequential game like most games. When you lose in the game, there is no save point you can default back to. You start a new run.
Yeah, so you're building poker hands with the help of like, you know, special cards and power-ups and things like that to beat the blind that round.
Yeah.
And you know, it seems complicated. I promise it's not. I promise the second you will start, you will become hooked. Your productivity at work and in your life will go down, as it has done to both Cole and myself.
Oh my God, I was about to mention like my productivity. No, it hasn't actually tanked my productivity, but it's taken up my free time. All of it.
I cannot tell you what. So I originally started playing the game on Xbox. I downloaded it on my phone, which was a huge mistake.
On Xbox, yeah. The phone. See, the phone one. When you mentioned it on the phone, I haven't played a game on my phone in probably over 5 to 6 years.
Right.
Like the last game I played top to bottom on my phone was Infinity Blade by Epic Games. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Infinity Blade.
I am, yes.
I was a huge fan. But ever since then, nothing has since grabbed my attention. I played like some gacha games, which I'm ashamed to admit, but I'm very clean of it now. Balatro has itched that itch that needed to be itched.
Yeah.
And it's done it so greatly. And now I play through it top to bottom. I've beaten a gold stake recently. My first gold stake on which was the deck that had the spectral cards? Was that the Mystic deck?
I think so.
The Mystic
deck. I've been starting, so my new strategy is instead of jumping around, I'm trying to complete red deck, then blue deck, then yellow. You just go through the decks sequentially.
Okay. That was another way to do it I was thinking about doing. But I thought about it a little bit more. I wanted to go through to Gold Stake and really beat the hardest challenge there was. And then kind of like get a little bit of a breather again. Go to White Stake on another deck.
Right.
Nebula kicked my ass. Like I haven't even gone through White Stake on that one.
What's the name of the deck where you get the double tag every round?
Oh, goodness. I actually don't know that one. I haven't played that one.
That's my favorite one.
That one, if you get like a negative joker on that one, you go ballistic.
Forget it. We have to go through our favorite jokers at some point. But anyway.
Easy.
But
Blueprint.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, Blueprint's like a duplication one. But if I see a Blueprint, I'm always picking it up. There's no way I'm not picking up Blueprint.
You get that eternal negative Blueprint.
Eternal negative. Oh, my sweet.
Give me Throwback any day of the week, by the way.
Throwback. Give me, which one's Throwback again?
Throwback is the one where if you skip a blind, it adds to your mult.
Oh, I'm not much of a blind skipper. I'm gonna name drop a YouTuber that I've been watching a lot, Raffle Waffle. If you haven't watched Raffle Waffle, he does a lot of Gold Stake Balatro gameplay. AKA, this guy is phenomenal. He breaks down a lot of synergies. He talks about some things that happened, and he can make any build work. He goes jokerless, and the guy clears Gold Stake. This guy is insane. He's blown up on YouTube. It's a delight to watch him. I've learned so much watching him, and I've been very blessed to have kind of transferred a little bit of what I've learned from him through kind of like watching on my second monitor to my friends who are watching me on Discord. And it's such a great time. I love doing it. I love watching him. I love playing it.
We sound insane talking about Balatro right now, but I promise you, if you download and play one game of this game, you'll get it. You'll get hooked. You cannot sue us if your productivity falls or anything bad happens in the aggregate.
Yeah, this is our disclaimer. Our legal team. We don't have a legal team, but if we did have one,
would you tell people that?
We need. Freudian slip. You know, I can't really win them all. But please, we're not being paid to promote it. We're simply passionate fans.
Yes,
we love Balatro. We love it. It's so much fun.
It's ruined my life, but at the same time, it is the best thing to come out of my Xbox in years.
At least we're not paying money to play.
Right.
That's way better than so many other game devs and other publishers like EA that are pushing these microtransactions top to bottom. It's like you log into your device and guess what? Microtransaction. You open up a game, microtransaction. It's like, I'm sick of it.
Yeah, Call of Duty's getting close to being like too microtransaction heavy. I can still get through the game without paying extra for COD points or extra skins or whatever. But
oh my God.
I know the DLCs are a problem, but
I like DLCs. I would prefer it would be wrapped up in the base game.
Yeah.
But we can do what you can. But let's bring this back to the rest of the Game Awards. Let's talk about Shadow of the Erd Tree, a DLC nominated for Game of the Year.
So I'm not familiar with this. Please kind of explain this to me and what the controversy is.
Sure. So Shadow of the Erd Tree is an expansion, a DLC expansion of the base game of Elden Ring, which won critical acclaim because, it's FromSoft. And it was a very well done package and a nice adaptation of their old recipe that they introduced with Dark Souls, which was much more linear than something like Elden Ring was, which is an open world take on their game design. And it won so many awards. It was well beloved. I played it top to bottom. I loved Elden Ring. But the issue is that the Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC being nominated opened up a can of worms for, can any DLC win Game of the Year? It's not a full independent game. Right. You need to buy a game to play the game.
Right.
I mean, is that fine? Personally, I was a fan of it because admittedly, it was one of the only games I'd ever played at the time because I'd never played Balatro by the time I was thinking about it. Yeah. But now that I'm looking at it retrospectively, I don't agree. I don't think a DLC should be nominated for Game of the Year, and it should never be nominated for Game of the Year. Okay. Certainly, it can have a lot of heart and soul and love put into it, but unless it is an establishment of not only a game engine, but a flawless execution of said game mechanics, I can't quite rate it on the same caliber as something that is independently standalone, a complete package.
So then I assume there's no category for add-ons, DLCs. Okay.
There is not at the moment. I would love for there to be one.
Yeah, that seems like an easy fix to
the
the controversy.
easy fix.
Yeah, but I guess how many DLCs are really released nowadays?
Yeah,
Maybe it's more than I think. I don't game as much as I used to, but I remember all the Batman DLCs and all the Call of Duty DLCs and things like that, which I guess were just extra maps.
Yeah, DLCs are really only a staple of, say, AAA titles. So you don't see a whole lot of DLCs and like a lot of smaller independent titles, but yeah, that's the way she goes. And then let's talk also a little bit about the best ongoing game, Helldivers 2.
Okay.
Have you played Helldivers 2?
I haven't. So I've seen some videos of it. It looks cool. I have not gotten a chance to play it. What's your experience with it?
Oh, Helldivers 2. Have you ever watched Starship Troopers?
Yes.
It is, think of the world of Starship Troopers in video game format.
Okay.
It's campy. It's over the top. You're fighting for a regime that is pretty blatantly corrupt. It's called managed democracy. I'll give you a quick rundown of the situation. Mankind is living on not just Earth, they're living on Super Earth. Okay. And it is run by what is called a managed democracy, all united under one government. And managed democracy is an AI-controlled democracy which handles all of the logistics of bureaucracy. It handles how citizens live. It basically handles every aspect of their lifestyle.
Okay.
And the Helldivers are an elite strike force from Super Earth to fight off the enemies of super democracy. And it is a lot of fun. It's campy. It's over the top. You are expected to die. You're expected to die a lot. You are going to die very quickly. You're going to kill things very quickly if you coordinate as a team. Ton of fun, but there was a bit of controversy about Helldivers 2. Namely, this was more toward like the middle of last year. In fact, I would dare say it was kind of like early last year. This was more about the Sony controversy about requiring PlayStation Network, to be required to play the game.
Okay.
Now, Sony's systems are not the most reliable. They're well known for being hacked back in 2011.
We do remember
April
that.
2011, they were hacked and they were breached where 77 million accounts were affected. PSN was shut down for a month and $171 million were accrued in damages. Now, asking players to sign up for PSN through Helldiver to play Helldivers 2 was a big problem. Not only because Helldivers 2 would then only be accessible in a few countries, but also because the countries that even had access to PSN would be subject to potentially huge security breaches. So it generated a lot of buzz. Sony eventually stepped back and said, "Okay, we're not going to enforce that anymore." But it's still fascinating. And I thought it'd be worth mentioning because Helldivers 2 is a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun over the years, not over the years, but this past year playing it with some friends of mine. And it's just, I'm happy to talk about it, especially as it pertains to the Game Awards and winning the best ongoing game title.
Okay. It seems cool. So is it a PlayStation exclusive then?
No. It's available on PlayStation, PC, and I believe Xbox. Although I haven't really researched too much about its available platforms, but I would assume Xbox because everything has cross-platform availability.
I'll have to look into it. I feel bad because the ongoing game I always wanted to sit down and play was Starfield. So like what? I guess my question is what, because I think a lot of people were disappointed with Starfield at launch. Whatever happened with Starfield?
It follows the typical trend of most Bethesda games where it releases in a bug-addled state and they eventually patch it up to a point of usability. But it also relies a lot on its modder base to try and supplement its shortcomings as a game.
Okay.
To my understanding, most folks, when they played Starfield, I've never played it myself, full disclaimer, they would say they go to these planets because you have the option to go to all these different planets, but there's nothing to do on them.
Okay.
There's no incentive. There's lengthy cinematics for things you don't care about. There's faulty AI, like the pathing is all messed up. A lot of stuff feels unfulfilling until you start leaning into the mods, which kind of drags me back to my whole experience with Bethesda games, but that I digress.
Because I was going to say, I didn't know if it was a case like No Man's Sky where they completely overhauled the game and everybody's like, oh my God, this is really good now, actually.
I haven't heard of any major overhauls or sweeps made by Bethesda for it, but
that's a shame.
It is what it is. Starfield. It's It's a game.
Do we have anything else this week?
I don't think so. I think we touched on everything we wanted to talk about.
All right, Cole, hit him with the plugs.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching us. We really appreciate it. This is kind of our first episode trying this on out, the screen scene, where we're talking about everything media. I'm glad we could touch upon the TikTok controversy as quickly as we did. If you like us, please give us a like, add a comment down below if there's anything else you'd like us to touch upon, any other topics you think are pertinent. We're thinking about incorporating a mailbox sort of situation where folks can mail in questions for us to answer. We're thinking about maybe making a little grab bag. We could reach in and pull out these questions and answer them. It'd be a lot of fun. Please send us questions.
Send in the mailbag questions. Give us a like and a follow. If you want to see what I'm doing personally, follow at Palmyra Pictures on social media. We've got some cool stuff coming up soon, including a film screening in Chicago. And that's pretty much it for me. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And, take care.
Yeah, thank you for listening, and tune in next time. Take care.